They'll be calling you a radical. So, 10 weeks and 1 day, 71 days into my rehab program, my 12-week program. I'm getting there. So, I want to explain this because Oliver Stone, did he make Natural Born? Did he make that movie? I guess this is the sequel, but anyway, here's what he doesn't tell you. I'll tell you exactly what he doesn't tell you. So let me explain. And to our crowd, don't get all fired up at these pro-nuclear, propagandists who don't tell you the story. And then, well, think about the anti-nuclear movement. It's like the ocean plastic movement, the half nuclears. The naked truth. Ignore the penny painters. Ignore these, well, not ignore them. It's important that you brand it in history, which they've done. Look, these social issues come and go. Blip, 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 and then these people can just run and ignore and hide. This issue cannot. This issue is forever. Well, at least a few 100,000 years. What Alex Jones, God, don't even get me going on him and rants. Alex Jones and Jeff Rance, what they did to Kevin Blanch is it's beyond disgraceful. Here I'm doing all that incredible tide pool work while I'm sick with no funding, historic, and they have those tide pool videos on their websites, and they're selling you name it. They made millions. They never once sent me a penny. So Oliver Stone, what he doesn't tell you, he says in his trailer that uranium's under our feet, natural from the earth. Okay, that's true. But what he doesn't tell you, that's not what they use in a nuclear energy reactor. All these pro-nuclears skip over this important piece of the greatest lie in human history. Nuclear energy. It's not clean. It's not green. It's not too cheap to me. It's the most expensive. It's pork just flies to them. It's all subsidies. Bernie Sanders used to say, cut the cord, the umbilical cord, pull the plug. Yeah, Einstein was right. Hell of a way, Kevin Blanch, hell of a way to boil a planet, March 2011. So let's explain this. So they get the uranium from the earth. They leave the tailings all over, which are toxic and a whole nother nightmare. But let's talk about what they use for the fuel inside a nuclear energy reactor. Not natural uranium from the earth. That's called uranium-238, right, kids? That's not the fuel they use in a nuclear energy reactor. What? Oliver Stone never told me that. All these pro-nuclears never told me that. Pandora's Promise never told me that. Any anti-pro-nuclear, I want you to just ask them, can you please explain the fuel cycle? Can you please explain how we get uranium 238 to uranium 235, and just tell them we don't use uranium 238 in a nuclear energy reactor. That's not what we use. We use uranium 235. Can you explain how we turn uranium 238 to natural from the earth? Uranium 235 is man-made. What? Stop. Oh, I didn't know. So how do they do this? It's centrifuge. It's the nastiest of the nasty. It makes coal look like bananas and sunflowers and beams of sunshine. It's so nasty, it's unreal. It's the nastiest freaking energy process in human history. Not my words, Albert Einstein's freaking words. So, remember, Albert Einstein was banned from the Manhattan Project because he was an anti-nuclear energy. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? One feeds the other. It's like the debt and inflation connected at the hip. So, they take uranium-238 and they centrifuge it. It leaves a 97% byproduct. So, how does that work? They use gas, hex gas. Nasty stuff. Really nasty stuff. They spin it. They gas it. So the gas induces it. So they spin it in centrifugal force in opposite directions. So once the centrifuge gas hits it, it starts to leach different atoms apart. Then they collide together at incredible force. Thus, we split the atom. So the atom bursts, and then the centrifuge forces it to the exterior, and they capture it. 3%, well, between 2 and 3% of what's used. What happens when they do that? What happens is it creates all kinds of man-made elements, including plutonium. You know, so these man-made elements, californium, plutonium, livermorium, tennessium, all these man-made elements are post the 30s, 1930s, and Einstein did not invent nuclear energy, not even close. He didn't invent the nuclear bomb, not even close. No. And he surely didn't write that letter. He signed that letter after Leo. Well, Leo begged him and begged him and begged him. He signed it. So it creates plutonium. It creates all kinds of nightmare elements. So that's what they put in a nuclear energy reactor. They put it into pellets. That's another process that Karen Silkwood. Then they stuff the pellets inside the rods. That's the exchange that no one will talk about. So how long do this uranium-238 stay hot? Forever, hundreds of thousands of years. So when they have the bundles, they're big, tall, right behind my house, Western zirconium rods, right behind my house. They're tall, and there's 21 to a bundle, and the bundles surround the core, which boils the water. Hell of a way to boil a planet. So it creates the exchange because the exchange is already happening because of the centrifuge process. 235, it's already heating. So it's a very dangerous, delicate process, moving those rods in and out of a reactor and storing them, and actually getting from the centrifuge into the core. Extremely dangerous. So they're already radioactive, they're already hot. So the heat exchange is already happening. They bundle into the core, then, of course, water. Why are all nuclear reactors built? You hear it all the time, they're built in their farms. Well, that's because they need water. They have to have water. Oceans, but many of them are around rivers. Well, same with farms. They have to have water. Of course, this is before they learn to puncture the aquifer. So we overfarm in this country so grotesquely. We overproduce food so grotesquely. We overfish. But here's the problem. Senator Lisa Murkowski's out yesterday. She's all over talking about the collapse of the salmon in Alaska, and she even says it started in 2012. It's an acute collapse. Kevin Blanch, nobody listened to me. Nobody listened. So the problem in this country is pork, right? Pork. Nuclear energy, you know how much they draw on subsidies? You just look it up. The entire industry is 100% supported by the taxpayers. The international IAEA supports it. Gargantuous sums of money. The federal taxpayer of the United States, whoa. Trillions over the years. Tens of billions, hundreds of billions each year. State taxpayer has got heavily involved in now. Status King Cuomo in New York bailed out the 3 reactors. 9 Mile Island could be 3 times worse than 3 Mile Island. All these states went house to house, and they had me fighting, basically, Kevin Blanch against David versus Goliath. State of Utah, we don't make it, neither does Idaho, but we sure bail them out. We sure give them money. New scale. These little SMRs are going to say there's no SMRs. There's no such thing. It's pork. In the 1950s, After they developed the Department of Nuclear, the Department of Nuclear is now what we call the Department of Energy, the DOE. It used to be called the Department of Energy. The original spokesperson was Jeff Bezos' grandfather, Geiss. His mother was impregnated at 14 years old at Los Alamos. He was the original. So they turned on the spigot on the Manhattan Project, and they never turned it off. Thus, the Post-Ignorance Project. Howdy. So it's pork. They're going to go to your local PTA and have a bake sale. I mean, it's never enough of these guys. And they all make huge money, and it always spills out in corruption. So I've said it for years. I taught it in the number one school of business in the country. Back when things mattered. Now it's feel-good fairy tale. News at 9. When news used to be at 11. 10, then 9. We'll get up and go to your 3 jobs. It's unbelievable how we evolved. This country used to be fiercely anti-nuclear energy. Well, what happened? Propaganda. Stephen Bechtel on the Hill. Well, you were paid to put triple liners at Hanford. Barack Obama. I got to tell you, that was our group that asked Obama when he's on the stump. And remember, he's propped up by the nuclear industry. Axelrod came out of the industry. So did your Japanese ambassador, Emmanuel. Hillary Clinton used to run ads against him in the swing states talking about how pro-nuclear it was. Of course, so was she, I think. I don't know, up is down. I mean, they're so wishy-washy, all of them, but it's the money they're addicted to and the power. Well, you clean up Hanford, every president says they're going to. Barack Obama. Why he's running for president? No bummer dumber. Bush dumb, Obama dumber, Trump dumbest, and sliding with Biden. Status quo. I got to tell you, don't know what Hanford is. Stephen Bechtel on the Hill. Well, you were paid, and you didn't, to put triple liners around the tanks of the radioactive water. Well, he threw it right back on Congress. We don't have to. He says, you guys' fault. And they're like, what are you talking about? You guys passed the Immunity Act for another 20 years in 2005. Went after Afghanistan to kill the Taliban. Went after Iraq to get a big old sack. While everybody was busy, nobody from Iraq, Afghanistan touched anybody from the U.S. I mean, when they started this big lie, Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction. Okay. No, he didn't. Pat Tillman fought off 9 million Al-Qaeda. Okay. George W. Bush won the 2000 election. No, he didn't. Operation Foxconn News. One by gesture and two by cable TV. So, it's the pork. The Immunity Act was passed in the 19... He says, you passed the Immunity Act? What does that mean? The Immunity Act is for anything nuclear, the United States taxpayer just floods out billions and billions and billions of dollars. Any company that's promoting nuclear, experimenting with nuclear, doing nuclear, blah, 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 the great lie. You can't sue them. They just get free money. They steal it. They rob it. They do whatever they want. Well, what did you do with the money? We hired PR firms. We invented PR firms to attack anti-nuclear energy activists. Which the Untouchables, Kevin Blanchard, Critical Condition, doing all the stuff. You kettle me, I'll kettle you. And really, you think about it. If you're contemporized, I got 4 million subscribers on TikTok. Who cares? To be contemporized in this sheep show, is a failure. So, hell of a way to boil a planet. He's not going to tell you this, okay? So what do they do? The cycle of this fuel, when it stays extremely hot, they need it really hot. It starts to calm a little bit, so they switch them out. But this stays hot for hundreds of thousands of years. It actually grows. Some of it. The solution to pollution is no. This don't dilute. They have to cool it. They have to keep it in swimming pools and all these nuclear reactors. Remember when I used to fight with Harry Reid? Who I knew Harry Reid personally. And remember he and I used to go at it about, because he, with the stroke of the pen, decided that all nuclear energy reactors in the United States were officially nuclear repositories because they never built Yucca Mountain. Well, Harry Reid was born and raised right where Yucca Mountain is, satellite. By the way, sadly passed of cancer. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. I've been battling cancer, as you know, since 2011, give 2 months to live. What a story. So these nuclear reactors, by Congress passed a law that it all goes into Yucca Mountain by a certain day, 70s. We just kept kicking the can, 80s, 90s, 2000s. Never going in, did it? Yucca Mountain, we spent all the money, we built Yucca Mountain. But Las Vegas grew up, didn't it? It wasn't a little boondocks anymore. They're like, oh no, you're not testing nuclear, but, oh, I guess they are testing nuclear weapons, but Idaho National Lab, we thought that was all done. Oh no. The nuclear renaissance, oh boy. The nuclear bomb renaissance. Thank you, Tsar Putin and Trump and Obama and Biden. We go from Gorbachev and Reagan to this. Holy shit. So the nuclear waste is stored on site where none of these reactors are built. Not one of them were ever built to store nuclear waste on site. It just builds up. This lie that it's some kind of fine, all the nuclear waste on the face of the earth could be put in a swimming pool or in a Walmart super is total bullshit. Number one, it's everywhere and everything. You know how radioactive it is? I mean, you know how much was that Fukushima, Japan? MOX fuel's against the law, right? That was us as activists made that illegal in the United States. What's MOX fuel? It's the spent fuel, they gas it, another process to enhance it, to make it stronger, to make nuclear bombs out of it. It's against the law here. We got all that passed. So what they do, they shipped it to Japan, our 51st state. Unit 3 was chock full of it. So you got 3 full core meltdowns in Fukushima, Japan, and you're ignoring, oh, this is no biggie. What happened? Didn't kill anyone. Remember when I got the emails from the head of the Fukushima 50's mother? I wasn't censored in Japan. You don't believe me? You go ask Richard Godoy. You go ask Kathy Iwani, who were both in San Diego, who were married to a Japanese man, had Japanese children who were there. Kathy and I worked so diligently and hard on the shutdown of San Diego. She was paramount. They were there. I wasn't being sequestered in Japan. So they were getting all my information. And I was right the whole time. Look at Rachel Godoy's work that she did independently and went to labs. Look how contaminated. You don't ever see that. They crashed RadNet here. What's RadNet? Gina McCarthy was head of RadNet. That's the Radiation Detectives Network. They took it down. That's an arguable fact. They raised the legal limits of radiation over and over and over in Japan and here. Obama did that? Yeah. Then Trump just plain got rid of them. And then we wonder why everything's coincidence post the bomb. Post the bomb. We don't talk about folding paper cranes enough. Sudoku's niece hands Kevin Blanche a real folded paper crane. Some of Weber State, the Japanese clubs up there, and during COVID, they'll promote, she got 4 million. So I'm sitting right next to her where they interviewed her yesterday. She's a sweet old lady, but the media just propaganding this. So they're folding paper cranes. And I'm like, well, you do know about, is this what you're up to, is folding 1,000 paper cranes, the book? Yeah. I'm like, well, she only got to 644 and she was 11 years old. She died of leukemia post the bomb. Hiroshima and Sudoku. We don't talk enough about her. Do you know there's a real one in Utah? There's only 3, I believe, in the United States. And Kevin Blanche got to hold it in his hand. It was presented to us at the Enola Gay Hangar. Where was Weber State historians then? Where was University of Utah then? Where was BYU then? None of them showed up. One of the most historic events in Utah State history. Let's get real. 7th generation. You know what kind of bloodlines are on all 4 of my Potter's bloodlines, and Abraham Hunsaker's bloodlines. Moses Tracy. You're talking infamous, original bloodlines here is Kevin Blanche. I'm 7th generation here. 7th. My grandkids are 9th generation Utah. Yet they turn their back and split. So they present I'm the second one that got to hold the real one. And Sudoku's very own niece, it's really her Sudoku's sister's nieces, her sister's great grandchildren, are celebrities over in Japan. Beautiful, incredible people. They came up and handed me a recycled paper crane made from the permanent vigil, and she started to cry and told me thank you. I mean, Nail Khan himself came up to me and bowed and started to cry and told me, Kevin, why don't you thank you? But what kind of, I don't get any. So, leukemia victim, given 2 months to live, father nuked to death on the Nevada test site, at the Enola Gay hangar in Utah, gets to hold a real paper crane as the Japanese reach out the olive branch. I didn't see any Utah media there. Channel 4, I believe, showed up late. I sat in Tippett's chair that night as we had the dinner. You know, Jim says, oh no, you sit right there. We're trying, but we get no traction. We get no support. You know, nothing. We get attacked viciously. So don't let these propagandists lie to you. Don't let them lie to you. Uranium, he says, Oliver Stone, you know, he says, oh, uranium's natural, right under our feet. Yeah, right, uranium-238, that's right. It's plentiful. That's not what we use in a nuclear energy reactor. Not even. It's not even. What we use is a man-made, nasty, horrible product called uranium-235, which produces all kinds of byproducts, including plutonium, californium, livermorium, tennesseum. Those are post-Fukushima, as Kevin Blanch says. Plutonium. We never had 3 full core meltdowns in the history. Chernobyl was one partial graphite reactor that blew up and 700+ thousand men entombed it. That was Gorbachev. I met Gorbachev twice. I went to his things in Vienna. He spoke. I'm the one that announced to the world that Igor had passed away in a car wreck. I was actually walking from the UN over the Danube, and I was on the bridge when I got the call. Look it up. He went in with his friends. They were real journalists. He says, they'll put us in jail. They'll lock us up if we do this. They did it anyway. They flew in. Old school, and the radiation ruined every photo he had. His friend had a plane, but they got one. And it went to the world. And the world. We had Ted Koppel then. We don't have anything now. We have feel-good fairy tale freak shows, what we call media. It's pathetic what they propaganda. They're trying to divide and conquer. You know, it's like Trumpets versus Obamacans or Biden. Same old geezers at Caesars, too. They're identical. They're puppets. And listen, it's real simple. I taught at the #1 school of business in the United States. I taught the banking class. I was a student professor. We were #1. We beat Harvard and Wharton every. Now, you know, they went supply chain. Everybody, I call it the lost curses, you know. So, I used to go crazy because I taught banking. I says, here's the deal. If you're a student in this program from all over the world, I graduated with Mikado himself and his sister. There's the Japanese royal family. There's pictures of he and I together. I loved him. He was amazing. So was she. Incredible. Brilliant. By the way, they live in Brazil. So I used to get information from them in the early days of Fukushima all the time. They've still not gone back. USS Reagan, all my work I did there, they sent in 32 ships to entomb. Obama backed him out on the advice. Obama was green as grass. He didn't know inside the situation room. Axelrod. You know, and they forced NATO Con out. Found a B. What happened to B still blows my mind. You know. So, and they didn't entomb it. They did it, Chernobyl. They could. I call it the egg. I wrote paper after paper on the bubble of the egg, up, underneath, over the top. Is the only answer. They sent 32 ships to evacuate all U.S. military and civilian personnel. 32 ships were sent in. Of course, USS Reagan got radiated and contaminated. I was in the bone marrow transplant with one of the young men from the Reagan who passed away early on. I've met dozens. People come up to me all the time. Airport, San Diego, and La Jolla. You know, people come up to me. Kevin, I wanted to see you. I've been following you on the USS Reagan. My neighbor died of leukemia after being there. Blah, blah, blah. It just goes on and on and on and on. So It never happened at 3 Mile Island. They covered that up. That played a lie. How contaminated was all that? We don't know, but it had to be bad. We'll never know. Carter's smarter. Okay. They're nuclear puppets because all the money, because of the Manhattan Project, Immunity Act. I know. So I used to teach the banking, and I said, simple. If you have no conscience and you want a fail-proof way to get filthy, stinking rich in this country, here's the businesses you need to go into. No bankster will ever be arrested. So you become a banker. You get the depositor's money. You could do whatever you want with it. Fly around on your Learjets, party, gamble it, do whatever you buy Bitcoin with it. You can buy whatever. Do whatever you want. You go to Vegas with it. The government will always bail it out. Every time. Every time. And they always have. And they will, no bankster has ever been charged. Ever. Never. And so it's a foolproof business model. You cannot lose. It's hedge you win, tell you. The Nuclear Energy Crime Syndicate. Go to work for the nuclear energy. One of the lab, Livermore. Bringing star-powered Earth. Pamela Harris's mother was the epidemiologist at Livermore. A lot of people don't know that. She used to be fiercely anti-nuclear. She helped us get Center for shutdown. What happened? I don't know. Livermore. Oh, bringing star-powered Earth. They brought star-powered Earth. The sun. The sun has always been the answer to energy. That's all we need. That's all we ever. There's not much money in harnessing the sun. Lobbyists. So you go to the nuclear energy. You go to work for one of the labs, or you be like Jose Reyes, work at Idaho National Lab, who was the head of the NRC when his product got approved. Don't you think that's a little conflict of interest? She's been removed now, but she was head of the NRC when they approved NuScale. Utah funding, Utah ratepayers out of your power bill, AMPS. I was head of AMPS. I was part of AMPS, which was for sun and wind. So what do? They just create it and turn it into alternative. It's not alternative. And they have all this money because of the Department of Energy, just incredible funding. And they use PR firms because they're never going to build anything. And if you don't believe me, the one reactor that went on, and they're talking about George ain't went on yet. Well, and it's how many billions over? I mean, we're plucking 30 plus billion. It started out at less than one. Same with the Mox Fairy Tale in South Carolina. I call it the Tower of Babel. They're still building it, and they know it doesn't work. Los Alamos. They brought the MOX fuel back from Japan under military gunships and secretly moved it to Los Alamos. It's there. They're talking about whip. Whip. By the way, my friend who just passed away, he passed away yesterday. He was a big pro-nuker in San Diego. Sean. Drank himself to death. But my one friend says, I worked on the one design at WIP, a repository for nuclear they never built. Oh, never built, huh? This is how secret they've been. They shoved so much into WIP. And nuclear repository. I still say get it off our plate, shoot it into space. Oh, you can't do that? We did it in 97. Miko Kako argued with me. Says, if we don't, it'll blow up. He's like, the rocket could blow up. The Challenger was done here. I said, I know, there's always that risk. But if we don't, it's going to blow up here on Earth. I told Miko, I talked to him post-Fukushima. I says, it blew up on Earth. So we shot it in 97, a load of plutonium into Saturn. Oh, it made it. The answer's always been the sun. That's all we need. We can harness the sun, which we do. But it's lobbies. We block it, we fight it. And so we don't need anything else. What they've done in Europe, it's dark 6 months, a year in Denmark, that they're almost all alternative energy. How do they do it? Well, they got creative. Number one is they slowed consumption. Consumption junkies, what's your function in the U.S.? We are over the top with consumption. We're sick with it. I mean, consumption junkies, the leaning tower of consumption. It's disgusting. We're consuming well over 50% of the world's product. We make up less than 4% of the world's population. In 1980, we were considered consumption junkies. It was 12%. We outsource everything. You're slave. I mean, you're getting all this stuff. I buy everything used. I mean, the kind of atrocities that go on to make all your stuff. Oh, Oh, talk about bad karma on you. Childhood slavery. That's just the tip of the iceberg. But we're all in. We're selfish, and we're consumption freaks. We don't care. But I care. So, of course, this rattles people's paradigm. They don't want to hear it. So, Oliver Stone's Pandora's Promise. Oh boy, they had the right name on the movie. They just spun it. That's what they do because they have all the money. It's not clean. It's not green. It's not too cheap to me. In fact, it's the opposite. Dirtiest, filthiest. It's the biggest mistake in human history. Not my words. Albert Einstein's words. He went off on it. People forget Einstein was a fierce anti-nuclear. Fierce anti-nuclear. He was banned from the Manhattan Project. He didn't ban nuclear. Fermi, yay. Isn't there a city in Jersey named after the guy that invented it? Down by the refinery, Bruce. We've got some of the nastiest reactors in the world shut down in the last decade. Oh yeah, shut down. But not Diablo, and the waste is all stored on site. No one talks about that. They were never built for it. So Harry Reid, and I told Harry Reid, you can't do that. Only Congress can do that. You're not executive, legislative, the NRC, which I call the Nuclear Rallying Cheerleaders, which is a sham. It's kind of like the SEC, a sham. Kind of like the EPA. It's all a sham. It's a revolving door. They're going to save us, the banksters. Okay. So you go into the banking industry, you go into the nuclear, or you go into agriculture. You become a dairy farm. For a product, we don't consume milk and cheese. We dump it. Milk our cows 4 times a day. Round up, poison the shit out of everything. To the point where I've had to move out of my property. And, I'm going to have to probably abandon all my property because there's a mega dairy next door who's a politician who just poisoned the whole thing. And no one cares. It's economy. It's not economy. It's pork. 100% subsidized and paid by the United States taxpayer, 100%. Diablo Canyon, we're going to keep it open, sucking up $4.4 million a day in California. Taxpayers' money a day. The nuclear fuel stored on site on the Ring of Fire. What could go wrong? TikTok. Oh, we don't get earthquakes and tsunamis and okay, all right. Just go along with the fairy tale. So let them brand themselves in history, because it's not a matter of if. It's a matter of when the next nuclear disaster happens here in the United States. Where do I think it'll happen? I think it's going to happen. Maybe one of those reactors in Georgia, as they're trying to fire them up, or Diablo Canyon. I mean, it's only a matter of time we get a major earthquake and tsunami. These spent fuel pools were not built to hold nuclear waste. They can't handle it. And that's where all the nuclear waste is. So Harry Reid went to Congress. He says, Kevin Lynch is right. So he went to Congress and he says he's right. And Congress passed it. So every nuclear reactor in the country and here's Holtec trying to grandstand and make money off of it. We got Senator shut down. Those candidates, here's a Gary filing another lawsuit there. Why? So he can make another $5 million, cut another deal? Unbelievable. When Kathy Iwani, myself, Gene Hedrick, and all these people did all the work. We're the ones that shut down Senator. Our group, Gene Snow, Ace Hoffman, Abalone Coalition, same at Diablo, Mothers for Peace. I've been at this a long time. So this is a long video, but to our crowd, simply, this isn't like any other social issue where it's just going to go away. It's not going to go away. So go ahead, let them brand themselves in history. Germany's got to figure it out. They shut them all down. They got 3 left. They're going to be shutting down next month. You got Denmark, they got it right. Austria sure got it right. Freedom Eisenhower, Kevin Blanche. On the 200th anniversary of Waterloo, I can never say. She invited me. She was full of cancer, didn't tell anybody. She wanted to talk to me. The greatest anti-nuclear accomplished activist in history. She was worried about her English. She grilled me for 4 hours in perfectly good English. Kevin, why don't you really tip? She didn't tell anybody she was full of cancer. She knew. She said, don't you drop this spear. I know your path. I know your father's path. You've been at this a long time. You're not a half nuker. She just went off on the half nukers, all of them, in the United States. She just ripped them. And you're not going to get any media. You're not going to get touched if you're accomplished and you get things done. Blue Castle, that's my work. Done. New skill I tried. I'm the guy that exposed the Kenwood Financial as a Ponzi scheme. It's all a sham. It's 100% sham. Illegal sham. You know, but so he doesn't tell you all this. He doesn't tell you where the uranium natural for the earth, he says. That's not what they use in a nuclear reactor. They use uranium-235. Just Google it, look up the centrifuge process, how nasty it, nuclear waste all over our place. One word when you're having an argument on the Nuclear Energy Crime Center, the pro-nukers. One word. One word. Fukushima. And just ask them, can you explain what we use in a nuclear energy reactor, the uranium-238, how we get that? They'll just, including Oliver Stone, I've done it. I've asked some of these so-called marquee professors. By the way, I was a professor at the #1 school business in the country. Very successful. I got blackballed. And you don't think we would say blackballs people? Ask Watt Masaki. His 100-year-old relative is walking here today, right now. Ask Fama K. Brody. Ask Kevin Blanche. So, TikTok. So he's not going to tell you this. Long video to our crowd. Simple. The small group of activists that we have developed over the years, the post-ignorance army. That's always who wins. It's never masses. These contemporary cycles, Trump calls it a fad, Black Lives Matter. Well, Trumpism's a fad. All of it's a fad. Everything's a fad. You know, no changes are permanent. But there are changes that are made. Socially, there have been changes made. You know, I was heavily involved in the anti-police brutality thing. There have been some changes. But when it comes to nuclear and the nuclear waste in Fukushima, it's not going to just, it's not a fad. It's not a fad. So go ahead, let them brand themselves in history. And, you know, it is what it is. I'm all cool with it, you know. Didn't he make that movie, Natural Born Killers? That movie's disgusting. What? Didn't it cause a lot? Well, I guess this is the sequel. So thank you everybody for supporting this historic work. You know, they can keep attacking us and going after us. That's when you know you're successful. Or that's when you know. And, you know, we just keep putting out the information. And they branded themselves in history. So did I. Stay tuned.